guys. Good evening. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is great to be with you on Inspirations for Your Life. This evening, it is, what is today? Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. It's great to have you with me. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, friends, if you're new to the show, we have a master topic every single week, and this one is the power to change a life is already in your hands. And the granular, which we have every day, which links to the master topic, from Bystander to Lifesaver, What Stops Us from Healing, Series 4, Show 29, Episode number 5. All right, guys, great to be with you. A big welcome to everyone that's coming for the first time, and a big welcome to all of you that are coming back. Really do appreciate you as well. If you have not checked out BelieveMeAchieve.com, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and check that out right after this episode is over, which you can do 24 hours a day. Hey, guys, if you're thirsty, I don't want you parched, so go get yourself some water. I have some RO here. Really delicious and quenching my thirst. Maybe you want a snack. Maybe you want a piece of fruit. Whatever it is, feel free to go get that, and I'll be here. And we're going to kick this show off right now, all right? So, a big welcome, again, to everyone, to the Inspirations for Your Life podcast. Excuse me here a second. Had a pretzel before there. And I'm your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, podcast coach, and I'm also a video producer and graduate student and a lot more. And in tonight's episode, I'm going to dive really deep into a phenomenon that affects how we react in the moments that truly matter in our life. Why do good people freeze when help is needed? What stops someone from stepping in when lives are at risk? From psychological hesitation to cultural barriers, we unravel the truths behind inaction. And more importantly, how you can be the change in critical moments. Get ready, everyone, to explore not only the science behind the bystander effect, but also the practical tools and mindset shifts that can turn anyone from a passive observer into an active listener. Are you guys ready? All right, let's kick this show off then. So number one is the bystander effect. More people, less action. Now that sounds like something that's pretty easy to understand, but sometimes people misunderstand like what that's totally about, all right? So when emergency strike, unfortunately, it seems logical that more witnesses would mean quicker help, you would think. But the opposite is often true. This is known as the bystander effect, where the presence of others dilutes the personal responsibility. People assume someone else will take charge, and a result, no one does anything. The more people around, the less urgency any individual feels to act. The dangerous illusion that can cost lives transpires. Recognizing this effect is the first step toward breaking it. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to come to grips with, to even understand that. But I'm here to tell you that this is very important. Number two, the fear of doing it wrong. I think I got this from my dad, who was, you're going to do it wrong. The fear of doing it wrong. Many people hesitate to help simply because they fear making things worse, whether it's giving CPR, administering first aid, or calling for help. People often worry they'll be blamed if the outcome isn't perfect. This fear of liability or judgment paralyzes action. But in truth, doing something, even imperfectly, is almost always better than doing something that's nothing, right? Understanding your good Samaritan rights and preparing through training can ease this fear and boost your confidence. So you are protected. And let me just talk about that. So what is the Good Samaritan law? Let's talk about them. So the Good Samaritan law protects individuals who voluntarily offer assistance to someone in need during an emergency from being held liable for unintentional harm or injury caused by them while providing that aid. These laws aim to encourage people to help those in distress without fear of any legal repercussions. The law applies when someone provides help without being legally obligated to do so, such as a pre existing duty of care or contractual obligation. And the assistance is rendered in response to an emergency, such as a medical crisis or an accident. Now, the good faith part is the person providing the aid must be acting in good faith, meaning they are genuinely trying to help and not acting with malicious intent. While protected from the liability for unintentional harm, individuals are still expected to exercise reasonable care under the circumstances. Exceptions. Good Samaritan laws typically don't protect against gross negligence, willful misconduct, or actions taken during the course of one's employment where they are compensated for providing assistance. So the primary goal is to remove the fear of legal consequences that might prevent people from wanting to step up and help others. So that's really, what it's about. Number 3, guys, uncertainty if it's an emergency. In high pressure situations, people often freeze because they're unsure whether it's really an emergency. Questions like, am I overreacting? Or maybe they're just sleeping. Cloud judgment? Perhaps. This hesitation costs precious time. It's important to train yourself to trust your instincts. When in doubt, err on the side of caution. It's always better to respond to a non-emergency than to ignore a real one. Number 4, guys, social influence. You see, no one else is helping. People look to others for cues on how to behave, especially in unfamiliar or tense situations. If no one else is reacting, we often assume there's no danger. This creates a loop of, silence. Everyone waiting for someone else to make the first move. The antidote, be the first person. When one person steps up, others are more likely to follow. Courage, guys, is contagious if you didn't know that by now. Number 5, lack of skills or knowledge. Sometimes it's not fear. It's just not knowing what to do. Most people want to help, but without training in CPR, first aid, or even knowing how to call emergency service correctly, they freeze. Basic life-saving knowledge can make a massive difference. Imagine if just 10% more people in your community were trained. How many more lives could be saved? That's pretty amazing, right? Personal or cultural hesitation. This doesn't just happen, folks, when you're on a trip. Even though you might think that's what it is, it has really nothing to do with that. Cultural norms, personal beliefs, or past experiences may make someone reluctant to get involved. For some, it might be taboo to touch strangers. For others, fear of misinterpretation or crossing boundaries may hold them back. We must be aware of these invisible blocks and learn how to respectfully navigate them. Empathy and awareness help bridge these gaps. That's important. Number 7, fear for personal safety. It's natural to worry about your own safety. What if the person is violent? What if it's a dangerous area? Self-preservation kicks in, and rightly so. But asserting the risk smartly is key. Helping doesn't always mean rushing in. Sometimes calling 911, alerting others, or distracting from a distance can be a life-saving set of actions without endangering yourself. Training builds confidence to act. Did you know that? Training builds confidence to act. I think that's an important thing to realize. Does that make sense, everybody? So the best way to overcome hesitation is preparation. When you've been trained, even just once, you're far more likely to take action. CPR, AED usage, basic trauma response, and even verbal de-escalation training transform fear into readiness. You're no longer guessing, you're doing. The episode is your invitation here to take that step and become empowered to make a difference. Like, first, does that make sense? I think it's nice to understand um, that sometimes we do something and we get lost of why we're doing something, right? I think that can sometimes happen, right? We get lost of why we're particularly doing something. So I think that's an important thing for us to realize. Now, here's the part of the program, guys, that I really like. Well, I like the whole show. I'm sure you guys know that. But here's the part of the program that I really enjoy. And so the reason I say that is I get to share some personal lessons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically give you a personal lesson or story for each point that I have covered tonight. And hopefully, this will solidify. Um, I'm hoping that this will solidify, like, what it means to you. But I realize that maybe, you're saying, John, it might not mean anything just yet. And I get that. I definitely get that. But we have to be understanding of that. Does that make sense? And hopefully, if you understand these things that we talked about tonight, um, it can really transform like who you are. And by transforming who you are, it can actually give you confidence to live the life that you have not been living. Not because you didn't want to, but because you're pretty much afraid. Does that make sense? And so, number one, the bystander effect. More people equals less action. I remember walking through Times Square one evening when a man suddenly collapsed a few feet from me. Dozens of people turned their heads. Some paused, but no one stopped forward. For a moment, I froze too, not out of fear, but because I subconsciously thought, well, surely someone else will help. But that moment stuck with me. I realized how easily it is to get caught up as a bystander in the bystander effect, even when your instinct tells you to act. Later, I reflected on that and made a conscious decision never again would I be a passive observer. I signed up for first aid training. I'm a first responder and committed to be that someone who acts. If I could rewind that day, I would have knelt beside him and done something, anything. That experience taught me that awareness of the bystander effect is the first defense against it. So, number two is fear of doing it wrong. Fear of doing it wrong. Back in college, I saw a cyclist hit by a car outside the campus bookstore. I knew basic first aid, but hesitated. What if I moved them wrong? What if they sued me for making it worse? That fear almost escalated and kept me from stepping in. But then I thought, what if no one helps because we're all scared of being wrong? Eventually, I took action. I called 911, kept the man calm, and directed traffic until paramedics arrived safely. Afterward, an officer told me how even small steps like that make a huge difference. That moment rewired something in me, an action, because it beats perfection. I've since educated myself on the Good Samaritan laws and continue training so I feel ready even if I'm not flawless. And I think that's important for a lot of people, to understand. Um, I think that's a very, very, I think that's a very, very important thing, and hopefully that means something, to you. Um, but sometimes people get caught up, right? They get caught up. So the thing that happens is uncertainty if it's an emergency, right? And so, what does that mean? Well, one evening, I noticed a man slumped up on a park bench, motionless. A few people walked by, giving him side glances, but keeping their distance. I caught myself wondering maybe he's just sleeping, but something in my gut told me this wasn't right. I hesitated not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want to overreact or embarrass him. I decided to call out gently. When he didn't respond, I called for help. It turned out he had suffered a diabetic episode and needed immediate medical attention. I learned that night to trust my instincts. Overreacting might cause a moment of awkwardness, but underreacting could have cost him his life. It's always better to check, right? Number 4, social influences. No one else is helping. No one else is helping. During a late train ride, a young woman was being harassed by a man a few seats over. Everyone saw it, but no one did anything, including me at first. I kept looking around, waiting for someone else to step in. When no one did, I realized we were all silently waiting for a leader. I stood up and asked the guy loudly if everything was okay, just enough to draw attention and diffuse the situation. Others quickly followed, and the man backed off. That experience taught me how powerful it is to be the first to act. Courage really is contagious, and often all it takes is one voice to change the tide. And other people started talking. So I think that's an important thing to understand. What that really means. Okay. So my next point is 5: lack of skills or knowledge. A few years ago, I witnessed a car crash, and I wanted to help the injured driver, but I froze. I had no idea how to check a pulse, even though I was a first responder. Just kind of like froze. Apply pressure, even what to say. I felt powerless just because of the situation. Kind of like brain numbs you. That experience stuck with me, and not because I didn't care, but because I was unprepared. After that day, I made a priority to get trained in CPR and AED and basic trauma care. The confidence that came with that knowledge was incredible. Now I know I can offer more than just sympathy. I can offer help. And that can be the difference between life and possibly somebody's death. Number 4, personal or cultural hesitation. At a local festival, I saw a child fall and hit their head hard. I started to move toward him, but paused. His parents were from a culture I wasn't familiar with, and I didn't want to overstep. That moment of cultural hesitation gave me a pause. Would I offend them? Would they see my help as interference? I decided to approach respectfully and ask, would you like me to help? They gratefully accepted. Since then, I made a point to educate myself on how culture views an intervention works. Compassion is universal, but how you offer it matters. A respectful approach builds bridges where hesitation once stood. I think that's an important thing to understand. Does that mean anything to you guys? I know it could be interesting, right? Um, but it can be confusing. And I think most people get scared when we talk about fear for personal safety. While walking through a city at night, I saw 2 people arguing loudly. And one, well, seemed in distress. I wanted to intervene, but a little voice said, what if it turns violent? I took a few steps back. I called the police. I stayed nearby to report what I saw. I didn't jump into danger, but I didn't ignore it either. That moment taught me that helping doesn't always mean rushing into the center of chaos. Sometimes it's about staying safe and taking some meaningful action, like calling emergency services or getting others involved. Being smart about your safety ensures you can help and keep helping. I think that's a very, very important thing. that make sense, everyone? I hope it does. The first time, I'll tell you, I was training, to let you know, that training builds confidence to act. First time I took a CPR class, I was nervous as you know what. I wasn't sure I could remember everything in an emergency, but the instructor said something powerful. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to start. That clicked for me. Repetition built muscle memory, and with each drill, I felt more ready. You see, they get you scared. And you feel like you don't know if you can do it something a certain way because you're not perfect. But starting is better than not doing anything. So a few months later, I had to use those skills when someone collapsed at a networking event. I acted quickly, confidently, and that person made it to the hospital in time. That moment wasn't luck, guys. It was preparation training, and training doesn't make you fearless, but it replaces fear with purpose. And that's how ordinary people become lifesavers. Does that make sense to everyone? I know that sometimes you might be saying something one way. And the reason you're saying it that way is because you're fearful of what could happen. What could happen? What could happen? What could happen? And that makes a difference. I will say that we get fearful sometimes. We get fearful because we're afraid of what may happen or what may not happen. So, what do? We just stand back and we hope that somebody else is going to respond. But what we learned today is the bystander effect could make a big difference on someone's life. We learned that. And we learn what that means. We learn that done is better than perfect. We can always go back and redo the cake. We can always re-ice it, right? But done is better than perfect. If we never start, we're never going to get anywhere. Does that make sense? If we never start, we're never going to get anywhere. We're always going to be wondering, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? When we've got to just take the bull by the horns and do something. Does that make sense, guys? I feel that when we think about the bystander, right, to being a lifesaver, many people feel that, oh, their life is too important. They don't want to get involved. I use the expression by us, my driveway's on fire. And I use it as a silly example. But the truth is, so let's say I'm outside and my driveway's on fire, hypothetically. And I say, gee, I need help. And they're like, oh, gee, John, yeah, I got to take Brendan to band practice. I got to take Kevin to karate, and I got to take Samantha to dance. Just call 911. They'll help you, but don't forget to message me on Facebook. Toodles. Everyone's busy. They don't have a moment. Does that make sense? I know that can be a little bit. I know this can be hard because we feel that we are not ready for the call. And by not being ready, I mean that we don't want to take an action. And the reason we want to take an action is because of one thing. You know what that thing is? Fear. False evidence appearing real. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope so. And hopefully you'll get more confidence in why you do something a certain way. I mean, hopefully. I'm not going to guarantee it, guys. But if we all thought of our lives as the bystander, we're always waiting for somebody else. Like, you remember the person who falls, right? I'm like, oh, I thought you were supposed to catch him. Oh, nobody caught him. Oh, well, I thought you were going to catch him. I thought you were going to catch him. I thought you were going to catch him. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Do check out BelieveMeAchieve.com for more of my amazing, of course, inspiring creations. I'll catch you real soon. Be well, everyone.